But with Justin Trudeau now positioned as the global champion for openness, public servants remain muzzled, seemingly powerless against the hypocrisy. 31 years ago, I joined Global Affairs. My job was to accountably manage billions of dollars of diplomatic housing. Almost immediately, I faced an indulged diplomatic class who, in violating rules, wasted billions on excessively luxurious and palatial accommodations. My duty to hardworking taxpayers prevented my acquiescence. By 1995, with deep recession engulfing Canada, 33% of urban children lived in poverty, rising to 50% in Montreal. This gross waste was not only unlawful, it was evil.
You wake up wrong.
This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
In 2004, I provided the first of many testimonies on the tenets of effective whistleblowing legislation. But rather than protect truth-tellers, government-imposed, oppressive anti-free speech regimes. Today, we must therefore confront Canada's dehumanizing treatment of whistleblowers who, as eyewitnesses to the birthplace of scandals, are indispensable to bridge the secrecy gap. Prime Ministers Chrétien, Martin, and Harper all affirmed that in their government, whistleblowers would be safe. A bright light was in 2006 when Pierre Poilievre stated, "The plan is to protect all whistleblowers, regardless of the approach they take to expose corruption." But with Justin Trudeau now positioned as the global champion for openness, public servants remain muzzled, seemingly powerless against the hypocrisy. 31 years ago, I joined Global Affairs. My job was to accountably manage billions of dollars of diplomatic housing. Almost immediately, I faced an indulged diplomatic class who, in violating rules, wasted billions on excessively luxurious and palatial accommodations. My duty to hardworking taxpayers prevented my acquiescence. By 1995, with deep recession engulfing Canada, 33% of urban children lived in poverty, rising to 50% in Montreal. This gross waste was not only unlawful, it was evil. For 6 years, I worked internally, believing that change would come. It didn't. Instead, the department unleashed a campaign of retribution. It started subtle but became brazen. Ordered silent at meetings, struck from memos, and deprived essential work tools. I was, as one colleague said, rendered irrelevant. My job was sabotage, putting my title and salary at risk. And then one day, I was simply stripped of my job in a degrading public statement. Maintenance took my door plaque, computer, and phone, and the department expunged me from the directory. And whether a lie, lack of courage, or something else, the ADM's betrayal of the promise to get back to me following our meeting left me hanging, subject to more stealth abuse for going up the hierarchy. The deputy minister stonewalled, and after sending evidence of the unchecked profligacy to Minister Lloyd Axworthy, I was threatened with libel for suggesting any wrongdoing. On my final day, invisible and alone, my director advised the problem was I cared too much about doing my job right. The final ignominy was an anonymous call tracked to a phone booth, menacingly warning to back down or the department would publicize who I was sleeping with. 1 month later, June 10th, 98, I sued. Reeling from 6 years of abuse, weary from constant vigilance, I now faced a Justice Department who financed 13 years of warfare using taxpayer money, hell-bent on bankrupting and destroying me. Shamed by nothing, in 2000, the government demanded I pay $360,000 for just one motion. And in 2003, they hauled me back into court, claiming I was stalling because I needed a brief reprieve to breastfeed my newborn. Now 62 years old,
you can do it.
Take a deep breath.
thank you. I have learned sobering truths. Despite winning, decades of being in a subterfuge of corruption, lies, and cover-up leaves lasting wounds. But the deepest cut is loss of time, hope, vocation, and community. Most of all, the loss of my little brother. Thank you very much. Thank you. Who with special needs counted on me. but engaged in a war against a formidable government. I couldn't be there when he needed me most, and he died alone. A year later, I went through the same debilitating regret when Mom died. We never got to sign up for the sewing classes. I kept deferring. I am so sorry. Today, my husband Serge is here with our sons Zachary and Sebastian. In the depth of despair, we found grace with their arrival. For their generation, we must find courage and place dignity to people over deference to power. We must pass Bill C-290, establishing this moment as a new beginning and restoring trust, not only in our public service, but in Canada's vision for decency and justice. Martin Luther King said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." Today, pass C-290 and be the force that bends this arc. Thank you very much. I apologize.
No, that was great. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses who are here today. Madame Dion, I worked for the Foreign Affairs Department for 15 years. I worked in El Salvador, in Argentina, and then in Dallas, Texas. And I recall in 2010, when there was the earthquake in Haiti, I left there at the time. So thank you for your service to our country. And I think that most people don't recognize the service provided by people who work for Foreign Affairs or for the Foreign Aid Development Agency.
Looking at this beautiful picture of you as a young woman, and I wonder, younger woman. I was once a younger woman myself, and you just wonder how you've changed from then till now. I can't imagine the difference between who this person was, so bright and optimistic and looking outward to the world, and after what you've been through. Most certainly, and I'll also say not to excuse the actions of any government, but I will say at the time when I was consul for Dallas, the foreign minister at the time took some very strong decisions to sell our official residence in Dallas, which had an impact on me, as well as properties in Rome, for example. So I know that that you're, although certainly I know the injustice that you have faced, there is no, it is injustice, but that there were those who heard your concerns as outlined within the article in terms of the expectations of Canadians serving abroad. So thank you for that. So now I will finally get to the questioning. Madame Gaultieri, how do you think 290 will impact public servants going forward into the future, and what positive aspect in the way that it could have helped you were it in place?
So thank you for that question and for your interest. So I have been involved in this movement for a long time. I am a lawyer as well, and I have to say that my initial involvement was very committed to the law. I mean, partly that was my training, and I also saw that it was necessary to regulate behavior through changing the laws. As I've progressed, I've realized, and I'm going to read you something by an academic, that the law is really just one part. It has to be there, but we know through any social movement, I always, look at the civil rights movement, laws were changed, but it took decades, years, a lot of sacrifice. There were a lot of deaths and a lot of marches. And so the culture changed through an amassing of people. So Bill 290, it is essential to pass it because to turn it back will send a very grave message to not only the public service, but to the people of Canada that they are not important, that the truth does not matter, and it's a very cynical maneuver. So I take it as a given that people will collaborate to pass C90. Will it be a panacea? No, it will not. Probably one of the most critical issues is how is somebody supposed to mount a case without legal representation? That is a very big part that we're going to have to discuss how to do that. But I want to read you something by an academic. This is, I believe, and I'll send it to the clerk, an article by Brian Martin, who's an Australian academic. He said this: a whistleblower is, in essence, a person who believes that truth should prevail over power. They are a potential threat to nearly everyone in powerful positions and thus need to be domesticated. It is unrealistic to expect a law to undermine powerful hierarchies. It cannot be expected that any formal procedure could be enacted and implemented that would enable single individuals, backed solely by truth, to reliably win against powerful organizational elites. So, the law, essential. Is it enough? No. We need a major cultural, socio-political shift in embracing whistleblowing.
No, thank you for that. And I also want to take this moment to thank your family as well in support of you, because no one achieves anything without their family. So I want to recognize that.
What are your thoughts on this bill's expansion of protections to public servants who are not the actual discloser of wrongdoing, but those who are involved in the disclosure of wrongdoings?
Sorry, I had a very hard time hearing. I should have had this on. What is my impression about the bill regarding the protection of?
So we're all in agreement that we should protect the disclosure of wrongdoings. What are your thoughts on protecting also those who are involved in the disclosure of wrongdoings?
They go hand in glove. If we need to investigate what the disclosure is about, but you won't have disclosures unless you protect the person who is doing the disclosing. So wrongdoing will remain buried in secrets, in documents, in private meetings, if people are not protected. So you can't have disclosure. You can't have free speech unless it's protected. And by doing that, we protect people. So it's axiomatic that they go together.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to the witnesses for being here today and sharing your expertise and your experiences with us. Could you provide me with some international examples of best practices for whistleblower protections? And I'll give each of the witnesses an opportunity to respond.
So I think the best way to answer that, again, because time is sacred here, is that we can provide that to you in writing. I've been providing it to committees since 2004. So Tom is really the master of these best practices, and many countries around the world have implemented them. We have currently one, and this bill introduces many more. So it is progress. But as I say, you have to have a fundamental structure. You can have a car that you can put excellent gas in, excellent oil, excellent seats, etc. But if the foundation of the car, if the chassis is rusted, then you're going to have problems. So we have some real structural problems in terms of where are you going to go for your remedy. So we will provide you with those best practices, and I think it will give you a lot of thought about what the next step is in introducing a bill.
Before I turn my question to Ms. Dion, what is the best thing that we could do right now? So what is the most important thing that you would say needs to happen next?
So you have to endorse this bill. We can assist you with amendments. Again, it's limited. Spending cannot be in a private member's bill. So, and much of this relates to spending, remedies. A whistleblower who sacrifices everything needs to be able to get a remedy. That is a spending issue. Legal fees, that is a spending issue. So the bill has to be supported. It is an excellent, it is an excellent signal that this is important, but there are remedies that we will assist you with, and we will provide you with best practices and try to introduce that as many as we can that don't infringe what a private member's bill can do.
Ms. Gold?
Do you have any time? If you do,
45 seconds.
burden of proof is a big one. Gag orders. I apologize, I should have raised this. I was put under what my lawyer, who was a very senior lawyer, who litigated my case, said it was the most draconian drag order he had ever seen. So you cannot give rights under this act and then at the same time gag people, which is done both at the front end in the employment context and then at the other end when they come out after disclosure.
Non-disclosure agreements.
It's not only non-disclosure agreements, Mr. Barrett, it's also the departments have basically gag orders in what you can say or do or how you can communicate in the workplace. That cannot cancel out your whistleblowing rights.
That's very, very helpful. Thanks very much, Ms. Gualtieri. And